Hey guys, so welcome back to Lex Reads. I wanted to do books that have a mother-daughter relationship. I thought in honor of Mother's Day, which happy Mother's Day, got me to thinking about the books that I read that had that theme. You guys know I like things like that. The multiple sisters, I like the mother and the daughter relationship, all that like the family kind of drama, y'all know, live for that. And I have read some good ones, okay? Notice all the ones that I have here, it's like different aspects of, you know, a mother-daughter relationship. Some, you have the traditional and you have the not traditional. I have 10 all together. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The first one I have is Jacqueline Woodson, Red at the Bone. Now, this is not the typical, I would say, mother-daughter relationship because of the mother raising, the daughter, the father steps up and raises it. Girl. So with a young couple, they're in high school and they get caught up, they end up getting pregnant. And the young girl, she like, you know, I want to go to college. This is going to hinder me. So what am I going to do? And they both come from different like social background. This was such an eye opener because y'all know in our community, we just go keep it real. The daddies, they get a bad rap. And a lot of times the mamas, we got single mamas out here, and they're the ones that's raising it. While reading this, it was a breath of fresh air because I'm like, oh, this boy really did step up. And when you think about it, they were children. They were children, 17, 16, 17. You don't know if you're coming or going at that age. For it to be such a deep book that packs a lot of punches, it is very, very short. Next is Patsy by Nicole Dennis Benn. Now, this is a mama that, this mama just trifling, okay? This mama, it's another one where she don't raise her child. But Nicole wrote this book so well and the character so well, where I know for me, even though I didn't like the way what she did to True, her daughter, I still kind of wanted her to win. So you have a young lady. She is Jamaican, and she wants to get out of Jamaica. She has a best friend that she grew up with. Her and her husband live in United States, and she decides to go there. But her intentions was not good in the beginning because, she got a visa, so she's going to stay there. So she has people thinking she's staying there for a couple months, but in her mind, I'm not coming back. But it's like, girl, you got a child. And that little girl, True, she know kind of like, are you going to come back really? She go to New York, stay with a friend, and realize it's a situation going there. She'll call her daughter, see what's going on. Her daughter's with her grandmother. And then all of a sudden, she just stopped communication. And her visa's up and she does not care. She's like, I'm not going back to Jamaica. So she's undocumented, working under the table, have anything. She literally is scraping by. And then you have True, who lives in Jamaica, where she eventually lives with her dad and her stepmom. You can just imagine how your mom just up and left you, and you have to live with your dad, who you really don't know. You see him from time to time. Growing up being a kid, becoming a young lady. We meet True when she's about, 6 or 7, and it ends when she is about to graduate from high school. Next is a play called Rachel, and this is by Angelica Wartkinski. She was a author during the Harlem Renaissance time. She writes, usually her books, they talk about race relations, injustice of Blacks, massacres, things of that nature. In this play, you have a mother who has 2 children. They're, older, but they're father was murdered. It was because of a massacre that happened 1912 or something like that. And he dies because of that. And the mother is just distraught. And she has been that way for years. And the children now, like the daughter, she actually is a mother. And you just see the ins and outs of just a grieving mother. You see the ins and outs of race relations during that time, during like the early 1900s. And it kind of, the mother and the whole kind of dynamic a little bit, it reminds me of, what's the play by Arthur Miller? No, not Arthur Miller. Tennessee Williams, The Glass Menagerie, where you have like the son and the daughter and the mother. it kind of gave me that when I was reading it, it kind of gave me that aspect a little bit. This, if you guys are into plays or want to get into plays, I would say pick this up. Next is a classic, and this is a mama. This is a mama to me. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Y'all, Hester Prynne. Now this again, this is a mama. This woman sacrificed so much and became a villain of the whole town, became known as the harlot, had to literally wear that on her chest, y'all. And she didn't reveal who the baby daddy was. And when you learn about who the baby daddy was, again with Hester Prynne, she had a lot of courage. I admired her for some situations, but I would have told who that baby daddy was. I'm sorry. Because it not only alienated her, but it also alienated Pearl. But one thing I enjoyed about this book, you guys know, I always say with classics, boring, 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 boring. This was not a boring classic. It was not. And the way that Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote this book was just brilliant in my eyes. It's not a long book. You get all the tea and the drama. And again, especially when you find out Hester Prynne's baby daddy. Oh my goodness. But just the fact where and also it's so crazy too, where, back in the day, like this time, if you had a baby out of wedlock, that was like horrendous. Like no one talked to you, no one even look at you. You don't even want to be associated with that person. As opposed to now, if you have a baby, you're not married. It's like, okay, nothing's to it. You know what I mean? Again, Hester Prynne, she was a mama. She was a mama. Next is Night Bloom by Peace Adozi Mindy. And this is actually her second book. Peace is known for His Only Wife, which I absolutely love that book. She is an automatic buy for me. And her writing, like the way that she writes, it's like you're watching a movie. And also she is funny. But this one, and this one is also completely different from, His Only Wife. Night Bloom, you have two young girls. They are cousins, but they act like sisters. One young lady who is extremely smart, and you already know she's going to go to the US to go to university. Like, we already know that. Then you have the other cousin who is not smart. She does work hard, but just books just don't come easy to her. And a tragedy happens with the one that is not really academically inclined, and she moves in with the cousin that is very smart. Also, the cousin that is smart, they have a little bit more means. And oh, girl, the stuff that happens in this book, it's a lot to deal with, because you have two different perspectives living under one roof. And yeah, this book, I think I did a reading vlog on this book. That I would say I like His Only Wife better, but like I gave His Only Wife 5 stars. I gave this 4.5 stars. And you get closure, and it ends how it's supposed to end. Again, like I said, Peace is an automatic buy for me. I love all her works. Next is a YA novel, and I always talk about this book. She has become one of my favorite YA novelists, and her name is Sabina Khan, and it's called Mimi in Bombai. I absolutely adore this book, you guys. And y'all know how I feel about YA. It's a hit or miss for me, okay? But this YA author and this book, sometimes I forgot that I was reading YA at one point. This is also not the traditional motherhood, mother theme book story. You have a young girl. She is living in the United States with her aunt and uncle because her parents want her to go to university. She's from India, and it's her senior year, doing really well. And she goes to a party. She meets a young man who's the same race as her. And she comes from an area where, like, she's the only Indian girl. They're the only person of color. So they start talking. They really do like each other. One thing leads to another. They get pregnant. And her thing is, I can't tell my parents about this or everything I cannot. Like, if you get pregnant and you're not married, in their culture, sometimes you will get killed. That's how big of a deal it is. And she's like, I can't shame my family. I can't shame myself. I want to go to college. So she ends up, and it's not a spoiler, She ends up giving the baby away for adoption. That's her story. That's Asha's story. And then you have Myra, who is the daughter. You get her perspective, where Myra, just like her mom, she's like the only person of color in her community. She has two same-sex parents, same moms, and she just always felt this void. Like she knows that she's loved. She has a great, relationship with her moms and her sister, and everything's going well. But she just has this void. Like, I wonder why my mom did what she did and all of that. And she finds a box of her mother's things, and it says, when you turn 18, if you feel in your heart, if you want to come and meet me in Mumbai, which is in India, and I'll be at this place. And you just see how it goes. Y'all, this was so, so, so good. Especially the tea with the daddy, because you kind of feel like, oh, I know you didn't just do that. Like, seriously? But then when you learn, like, oh, okay, that's why you did what you did. Girl, this was so good, y'all. Next is One Summer in Savannah by Tara Shelton Harris. Now, this really opened my eyes because it's very sensitive, because the child was conceived of rape. I have never read a book that was the theme. And I always wondered, when a person, you know, was violated in that way. We always think about the act, but we don't think about the aftermath. Or we don't think about, sometimes, if that person gets pregnant, do they keep the baby? Do they not? Or if they do keep the baby, how do they act towards them? Sometimes, if a person has been violated and, a child is conceived, sometimes they'll, give it away to another family member, or give it up for adoption, or usually give it away to another family member. And it's like, oh, that's their cousin, you know what I mean? Or sister. In this instance, she didn't give her child up. But the crazy thing is, y'all, the person that violated her, the family wants to have a relationship with the daughter. And I mean, y'all, this was our book club pick, I believe, was it last year, and we had a really good discussion, because this is a conversational piece, just to hear everybody's, different perspectives. And like I said, I never read a book where it talked about that. And I always wondered, again, like I said, how a person would navigate that situation. I thoroughly enjoyed the little girl in the story, and just to see also the attacker's perspective too. Yeah. Another thing I like about this book, you would think, because of the theme, it is heavy, 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 heavy. It is not, and that was surprising. She doesn't even really, you don't, about the rape, obviously, but she doesn't, you don't have a rape scene. You don't. You just talk around it. But that was one thing that I did appreciate, because reading that can just be unbelievably difficult, and I can only imagine going through it. But I really did like this book. Next is one of my favorite authors. Y'all know I talk about her all the time, and it is Sadika Johnson, The House of Eve. I enjoyed this book. I have 2 copies of this book. I've read this twice. Y'all know how much I feel about it. Y'all know how I feel about Sadika Johnson. This is another, perspective of motherhood that I love. You are dealing with adoption. You are dealing with teen pregnancy. And it's all during the 1950s, y'all. And the research that Sadika did when it comes to the homes for the unwed mothers, especially during that time, girl, those nuns, oh, they treated them girls like trash. And some of those girls, they were in there because they got sexually assaulted. And the way that they just made them, think about themselves, and, oh, girl. And again, it's in the 1950s, and you already know segregation, Jim Crow, them conditions are just horrible. But then also, I love the fact that you have 2 different perspectives. You have 2 different characters. Ruby, she's a young, girl. She's about 15, going on 16. And then you have Eleanor, who is a sophomore in college, and her love and her, love interest and love interest family, they are like elites, and they deal with colorism and things of that nature. And she thinks, because I don't come from that same world, because I come from a lower class background. I think by us having a child, that would kind of make it better for our families. And yeah. And the last two are actually nonfiction. The first, The Three Mothers by Anna Malika Tubbs. This I thoroughly enjoyed, and you guys know I'm not really a fan of nonfiction type books, but I really did like this because, first of all, it talks about three different mothers. It talks about James Baldwin's mother, Malcolm X's mother, and Martin Luther King's mother. And I had no idea about James Baldwin's mother. I did know a little bit about Malcolm X's mother and Martin Luther King's mother. James Baldwin was a brilliant author and activist, and his writings are beyond amazing. I prefer his, I would say, fiction over his nonfiction, even though he's known for the nonfiction, his critical analysis. But his mother inspired him to write because she was a writer. With Martin Luther King's mother, her story was really sad because I don't think a lot of people talk about, you know, um, she was murdered. And I think people also don't talk about when Martin Luther King died, 18 months later, his younger brother, AB, died. He drowned in a pool, which his wife say he didn't drown in no pool because he was a swimmer. And then a couple years later, the mom dies, so and gets shot in their church. Yeah, yeah. So just tragedy hits with that family, but you learn about the mother and the sacrifices that she made for Malcolm and his sister. And then lastly, you learn about Martin, and then lastly, you learn about Malcolm's mother, who was put in an asylum. They thought that she had, gone crazy and all of this, and really, no. Um, but one thing I learned about this book is I did not know that she was alive when he died. I thought that she had already passed, but she didn't. She was literally locked up, in a mental institution, and she had several kids. They took her kids away and all of that. Another thing I love about this book is she not only talks about the three mothers, but she talks about motherhood in general, Black motherhood in general. And there are some stories in here I would say you do got to get your mind right when you read this book, because just to learn about what they did to them Black mamas. Oh, girl, it is a lot. There's a story that's in here. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but if you read it, it's a story that you will never forget. You will never forget. Lastly is Mom and Me and Mom by Maya Angelou. This was one of Maya's last books, I believe, when it comes to the autobiography, series. And her mom, Vivian, which they called her Lady, Vivian was just a spitfire, okay? She just seemed so fun. We know in the I Know Where the Cage Bird Sings, Maya wasn't raised by her mother. She was raised by her grandmother, her and her brother Bailey, but she still had a relationship with her mother. And especially when she got older, it was just, her mom looked like she was just so fun. It was a scene where her mom had gotten married again and she was like an older woman. And she wanted to tell Maya to tell her stepdad that he's not performing right in the intimate way. And she like, Mom, I can't tell him that. And like, seriously, like, that's what you're thinking about? And she like, girl, it's just not happening, okay? The way that she, like, that's how she talked. She just was like a young mama, like she just liked to have fun, you know what I mean? And she was like that, Maya said, until the day that she died. But this was such a good book. I love the relationship, and also I love the fact when Maya had, she got pregnant when she was a teenager, and her mom told her, she moved out. And her mom, she said she always remember her mom saying, no matter where you go, you will always have a home. I am not embarrassed by you. I am not shamed by you. I'm not disappointed in you. But remember, wherever you go, and if you need to come home, you can always come home. And Maya said that stuck with her. If you read the, autobiographies, when she did need to come back, she came back, and Mama was there with open arms with, her baby. And yeah, I mean, this book, love it so much. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to the mother-daughter theme, motherhood theme. I wanted to kind of give you guys different perspectives, some of the traditional, some of the non-traditional books. Again, in my opinion, they are so good. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books.